10 May 1940. The Nazi war machine rolls into Belgium with unstoppable momentum. Within days, the small nation's defences crumble under the assault. Belgium had declared neutrality, hoping to avoid the horrors of another world war. But Hitler's forces show no mercy. By the end of the month, the Belgian military lays down its arms, and German occupation begins. Across the country, a new reality takes hold. The occupiers establish their authority through fear and propaganda. Some Belgians resist from the shadows, risking everything to fight back, but others choose a different path. They see the Nazi victory as inevitable and decide to profit from the new order. One such man will rise through the ranks of collaboration, becoming a key figure in Belgium's darkest chapter. He will orchestrate massacres, oversee terror campaigns, and betray his own people. By war's end, his crimes will demand the ultimate punishment. This is the story of Louis Collard. Born in August-May 1915 in Ans, an industrial town in French-speaking Wallonia, Louis Collard entered a world still reeling from the Great War. The conflict that consumed Europe between 1914 and 1918 devastated Belgium, leaving behind economic ruin and bitter memories of German occupation. Collard's generation grew up in the shadow of that trauma, shaped by stories of hardship and national humiliation. By the May 1930s, Belgium faced new crises. The worldwide economic collapse had triggered mass unemployment and social chaos. Traditional political parties seemed powerless to address the mounting problems. Extremist movements gained traction, promising radical solutions to desperate people. On both the left and right, authoritarianism appealed to those who had lost faith in democracy. It was in this climate that Rex emerged as a political force. Founded by the charismatic Léon de Grelle, the movement began as a Catholic organization dedicated to publishing religious materials. Its full name, Christus Rex, reflected its initial focus on spiritual renewal. But de Grelle had bigger ambitions. He transformed Rex into a political party that blended Catholic traditionalism with fascist ideology. The movement attacked parliamentary democracy as corrupt and weak. It demanded a strong leader who could restore order and discipline. It championed Catholic values while borrowing tactics and rhetoric from Mussolini's Italy and Hitler's Germany. In 1936, Rex achieved a stunning breakthrough, capturing over 11% of votes in national elections. But de Grelle's growing extremism soon alienated moderate supporters. As he moved closer to Nazi Germany and adopted increasingly fascist positions, the Catholic Church withdrew its backing. By the late 1930s, Rex had become a fringe movement, but it retained a core of devoted followers. Louis Collard was among them. Young, educated, and ambitious, he found purpose in Rex's authoritarian vision. He joined the organization and quickly demonstrated a talent for administration and propaganda work. His intelligence and organizational skills caught the attention of senior leaders. When war came, Collard was positioned to play a significant role. Germany invaded Poland in September 1939, igniting the Second World War. The following spring, Hitler turned west. Belgian defenses collapsed rapidly under the German onslaught in May 1940. As the country fell, de Grelle and other Rex leaders saw opportunity. Under Nazi supervision, they rebuilt Rex as a collaborationist organization, serving the occupation regime. Collard rose swiftly through the reconstituted movement. He took charge of propaganda operations and helped coordinate Rex's activities across occupied Belgium. His role brought him into close contact with German security services, including the dreaded Gestapo and the SD intelligence agency. These connections gave him considerable power, which he wielded ruthlessly against perceived enemies of the occupation. When de Grelle departed for the Eastern Front in 1943 to fight alongside the Waffen-SS, Collard assumed practical control of Rex's civilian operations. From headquarters in Brussels and Charleroi, he directed a network that spread Nazi propaganda, identified resistors, and assisted in persecuting Jews. Under his leadership, Rex militants participated in raids, arrests, and repression alongside German forces. His paramilitary unit, Brigade B, became synonymous with brutality and collaboration with occupation authorities. By 1944, the tide of war had turned decisively against Germany. Allied armies advanced across France following the D-Day landings in June. Inside Belgium, resistance fighters intensified their campaign against the occupiers and their collaborators. Attacks, assassinations, and sabotage became daily occurrences, the Germans and their Belgian allies responded with increasing savagery. In mid-August 1944, resistance fighters struck a devastating blow. They ambushed and killed Oswald Engelbin, the Rexist mayor of Charleroi, along with his wife and son. The assassination sent shockwaves through the collaborationist leadership. Collard and Victor Mathis, who had taken over Rex's political direction, demanded immediate revenge. What followed became known as the Courcelles massacre, one of the most horrific atrocities committed during Belgium's occupation. Rexist militiamen swept through the nearby town of Courcelles, seizing civilians suspected of resistance sympathies. Teachers, merchants, local officials, and a Catholic priest were among those arrested. That evening, executions began. More arrests followed overnight. On the morning of August 18, the remaining prisoners faced a firing squad. 27 innocent people died in the rampage. Survivors and witnesses identified Collard as a key figure directing the operation. The massacre stood as a final act of fanatical violence, occurring just weeks before liberation. When Allied forces liberated Belgium in early 1944, the collaborationist regime collapsed overnight. De Grelle fled to Germany, eventually reaching Spain, where he lived until his death decades later. Collard and Mathis also escaped eastward into Germany as the occupation crumbled behind them. The two men attempted to reach Switzerland, but were turned away at the border. They retreated to Austria, where Mathis was quickly apprehended. Collard evaded capture for several months, but Belgian intelligence agents tracked him down in Innsbruck in February 1946. They found him with his wife Huguette and a group of Belgian SS veterans. Collard already faced a death sentence issued in absentia by Belgian courts. Investigators had compiled extensive evidence of his crimes. Beyond his leadership of Brigade B and role in the Courcelles massacre, he stood accused of involvement in multiple political assassinations during the occupation. The victims included prominent industrialists, politicians, and legal figures who had opposed the Nazis or represented institutions the collaborators despised. Returned to Belgium under armed guard, Collard faced trial in Charleroi. Former Rex members provided damning testimony about his activities. One witness, Jean Avar, described how Collard had ordered him to compile intelligence on Belgian Freemasons, information that led directly to assassination targets. When questioned about this, Collard claimed the research had been purely academic. He later acknowledged bearing responsibility for certain reprisals, including Courcelles, but attempted to minimize his authority within Rex's hierarchy. The court rejected his evasions. On March 1, 1946, judges sentenced him to death for the murder of politician Jules Hiernot. But this was only the beginning. In May 1946, Belgium convened its largest war crimes trial at the Salle Concordia in Charleroi. 97 defendants faced charges related to the Courcelles massacre. Mathis and Collard headed the list of accused. During 2 months of proceedings, 147 witnesses testified about the terror campaign. Collard appeared gaunt and nervous, wearing spectacles and prisoner number 55. He claimed memory loss repeatedly, insisting he could recall nothing of the relevant events. When confronted with specific evidence, he became sarcastic and dismissive. His defense attorney portrayed him as a subordinate merely following orders, but the testimony overwhelmingly demonstrated his active leadership role. On August 3, 1946, the court delivered its verdict. Both Mathis and Collard received death sentences. While imprisoned awaiting execution, Collard attempted to take his own life but failed. His psychological condition deteriorated over the following months. He remained isolated in his cell as the execution date approached. November 10, 1947. Dawn breaks over a military barracks in Charleroi. 27 convicted Rexist collaborators are scheduled to die that morning. Louis Collard, now 32 years old, is in the first group. When guards come for him at 7:30 a.m., he pleads desperately for mercy. There is none to be found. He smokes a final cigarette but can barely stand. Guards support him as he moves toward the execution post. A formal ceremony precedes the execution. Because Collard held military status, his insignia must be publicly stripped away. The charges are read aloud. A priest approaches to offer spiritual comfort. Collard weeps as prayers are said over him. A red cloth is fastened to his chest to guide the rifleman's aim. The commanding officer raises his sword. At 7:36 a.m., the sword falls. 12 rifles discharge simultaneously. Collard collapses against his restraints but does not die cleanly. His body convulses. He cries out in agony. The priest steps forward to administer final rites. Then a gendarmerie officer approaches with a pistol and delivers the coup de grace, a single shot to the head. Louis Collard's betrayal of his country has reached its end. Thanks for watching, and please remember to subscribe for more captivating histories that should never be forgotten.